You're probably going to be shocked at what we're going to share with you right now.
Oh, yeah.
But being a Catholic priest, there's 198 countries in the world. Being a Catholic priest today in Mexico is more dangerous than being a Catholic priest anywhere else on planet Earth.
Yep.
I'll tell you why it's so dangerous being a Catholic priest in Mexico, and we'll get into the article that shows us from the Catholic News Agency. The reason is that the country of Mexico the government is run in collaboration with the drug cartels. So Mexico's run by the government, and the government officials are Freemasons who hate the Catholic Church. Government officials in Mexico are also Marxist. Mm-hmm. Marxism is basically the way that they govern in Mexico. Marxists hate the Catholic Church. The drug cartels are Satanist. So, check out what I'm saying. You have Masons, Marxists, and Satanists.
Yeah, terrible.
All three. This is who runs Mexico, south of the border.
Wow.
They are the arch enemies of the Roman Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. Now you know why. In the last 30 years, one cardinal and 57 priests have been killed in the last 30 years. That's been recorded as of July 2022. I think one or two have been killed since then. So I think the number's up to about 60, Terry.
Yeah. Jesse, you should know about this because you've studied Mexico's history, and it just seems so obvious to all of us. And I don't want to get into the other, but their influence in the jails in California, that's a fact. They're running a lot of the jails, and a lot of people in Central California, I know this for a fact, the police don't even want to go into those areas because of the cartel running places. And so you've done the research on this, Jess.
Yeah, let me get a little more specific.
Okay.
California has the largest prison system in the country.
Yep.
The Mexican mafia runs all the drugs and all the sex that's sold, that's parlayed in the prison system, all the men that are sold.
Yes.
It's all run and controlled by the Mexican mafia in California.
Unreal.
They are the strongest force in the Southwest prison system. Also, the Mexican cartels, you'll find Northern California, this is very common right now. You'll have a guy that's maybe, he's got 100 acres, 50 acres, it was given to him down the family, dad, grandpa, and he's continued his farm. So you got Mexican drug cartels coming up, knocking at the door saying, hey, how much is your 50 acres here in Sonoma County worth? How much is it worth? Well, I think it was worth, last time I checked, I think it was worth like $1.2 million. Here's $2.4 million in cash.
Oh, my gosh.
Get out of here in 10 days.
Wow.
So the cartels are going to Northern California. They're paying you twice what it costs, what the market is for your property with all the acres that you have in Northern California, in the forests, in the they pay you twice in cash of what it's worth. And they said, you need to be out between 5 and 10 days.
Wow.
And so they're buying up all the property in Northern California, and they're setting up the marijuana industry, and they're undercutting the legalized marijuana industry that's been legalized through legislation. And they're undercutting them in their price. They're able to produce it faster, stronger strains. So they're actually destroying. People are saying, oh, the marijuana industry is going to bring in a lot of tax revenue into the state of California. The Mexican cartels have undercut the drug industry. And guess what they're even doing, Terry?
Tell us.
They just, if they see one of their opposition say he owns 100 acres, they knock on his door, say, hey, we'd like to, how much is your property worth? Well, I think it's worth about 1.5 million. Okay, well, we'll give you 3 million. No, I'm not interested in selling it. Guess what happens to the guy?
Knock him off.
They find him dead the next day, Terry.
That's what I figured. That's how business works.
Yeah. But this article says, Terry, a report by the Mexican Catholic Multimedia Center shows that from 1990 to 2022, The violence in Mexico has claimed the lives of one cardinal and 57 priests.
Yeah.
I think the number's up 2 or 3 more since this article.
Yeah.
The document also notes that the first 3.5 years of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's 6-year term, this is the new president, 7 priests have been murdered in the country. And by the way, he's a Marxist, in case you're wondering. And he's a liberal and he's a Marxist. And perhaps the most shocking, the Archbishop of Guadalajara, Cardinal Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo, was gunned down at the city airport on May 24th, 1993.
Right.
The official thesis at that time was that the cardinal was confused with a high-ranking organized crime boss. However, some sources point out that the latest investigations agree with Cardinal Sandoval Iniguez that it was homicide by the state, the CCM reports. Terry, I'll tell you why this happens. For example, in our country, there's still a semblance of the rule of law. You could have people in our country. I mean, there's a lot here in Phoenix. There's a lot of people, priests that say some strong things from the pulpit, strong things. And they tell us, the priests in Phoenix say, please, lay Catholics, don't YouTube us. Don't put we'll keep on talking like this, but don't put our homilies on YouTube. So there's a lot of good priests here in this country that say very strong things against evil from the pulpit. But in Mexico, if you speak out strongly, like let's just say like a Father Altman, or like Father Karapi, in former times, Father Heilman. If you speak like that from the pulpit in Mexico, it's easy to come up dead the next day because the cartels. It's an offense against the cartels because anything that you speak out against, whether it's prostitution or drugs, or just senseless murders or the worship of Satan over there, anything that they speak out against, this is something that's being fueled and instigated by the Mexican cartels. So a lot of these priests find themselves dead the next day.
Jesse, it's not only the priests. In the article, it shows that Mr. Lopez's administration, more than 121,000 homicides have been recorded in the country, which is on track to exceed the more than 156,000 murders committed during the 6-year term his predecessor had. In other words, even if you're a layman and you go against the grain, they'll take you out also, it looks like.
Yeah, think about this. The predecessor, Enrique Nieto, he was a Catholic, but he was not a real strong. I mean, he was just intimidated. He was bullied, you could tell. But he was Catholic. He wasn't a Mason. Under his 6-year term, the article says there was 156,000 murders in 6 years. Right now, President Obrador, he's only been in office 3.5 years, and there's already been 121,000 homicides. Terry, by the time President Obrador López is done in a 6-year term, it's going to break the record in homicides. It's going to exceed 200,000 homicides. It'll exceed 200,000 people having been killed, which, Terry, makes Mexico more dangerous than Iraq, Afghanistan, North Korea. I mean, I don't think there's a higher place where there's a higher rate of homicide right now in the world than the country of Mexico.
And here's the irony of it all, Jesse. That is, when the church leaders and the Orthodox church leaders speak up for the truth, they're persecuted by their own lives. And so obviously, most people are not going to even challenge it. I've been told, Jesse, that people just say, well, we have to live with that. And there's certain places in Mexico that are more dangerous than others. And we just, that's just the way it is. The police aren't going to help us. There's no help. So you just got to avoid those things. I'm thinking, how do you live like that? Yeah,
the cartels they basically have the police department on payroll. And so they pay them off. The new president of Mexico, in case you're wondering, he's a committed socialist. He's actually said, and by the way, he won on a landslide victory.
Wow.
And so he's going to be president for another 2.5 years because it's a 6-year term in Mexico. President Obrador López, he said that by the time he's done in Mexico, his 6-year term, he says he's going to transform Mexico into a socialist country. That's his promise.
What a promise.
Yeah, so I mean, Terry, but this doesn't surprise me. I'll tell you why. Because when you look at the present Mexican Constitution, which was re-edited, written in 1917, it contains
big time.
anti-clerical laws that are still on the books. They haven't. It's 2024. We've had at least 2 Catholic presidents since then. Vicente Fox, cheap fake Catholic, and then also the one before, President Nieto, Enrique Nieto. He was a better Catholic. You'd see him going to mass on Sundays, but I think he was just afraid of the cartels. We've had 2 Mexican Catholic presidents since the Constitution was written in 1917, and you would have thought that they would have taken what do you call it, a whiteout to the Constitution and say, I'm striking this out through executive order, I'm striking this out through executive order, I'm striking this out. But no, they've kept, it's been over 100 years, and they've still kept the anti-priest laws that are still in the books in Mexico. And Mexico fancies itself as being a majority Catholic country, yet it's got the most hostile constitution to Catholic priests in any country in the world.
You know, Jesse, my experience of Mexico City, I went there for trying to raise money for Catholic radio. Mr. Slim was there, and I went to visit a museum, and the museum was protected by the military. All these military guys had AR-15s, and they were all over the place. And I was so surprised. I said, my gosh, I mean, isn't that a little overkill? I mean, you got police all over the place, but they're military guys guarding this museum. And the guy said, well, no, that's just how it is in Mexico. If there's something valuable, if you're not going to protect it really well, it's going to be gone. So I just was shocked at that. Jess, when we come back.